Hey y'all, Data Guy here. And today I wanted to make a video showing you how to combine two tools that I like, Spark and Weaviate, to show you how you can do vectorizing and sentiment analysis within the confines of Spark. So Spark, great tool for ML work because you can do distributed computing, process a whole lot of data at once. Weaviate, great lightweight vector database that you can run on your local machine. If you haven't seen my video on how to set up and run Weaviate yourself, definitely check that out before watching this video because this will rely on you already having a Weaviate database that you can build. So I'm going to show you now. We're going to pull some data from an API, we're going to vectorize it, then we're going to upload it into a Weaviate database, then we're going to use those vectors for sentiment analysis. And then if we have time at the end, I might show you a couple ways to extend that as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first thing we'll do here is create a new file, and we'll call it Weaviate or vector Weaviate.py. Then first thing we'll need to do, as with all of our Spark setups, is import all of our different libraries and packages. So PySpark SQL importing Spark session, requests so that we can perform requests on an API endpoint. UDF, this is going to allow us to perform data analysis. So a user-defined function that we're going to create that is then going to take that data, process it, and then turn it into vector data. Then we have string types. You can use string type data. Transformers, this is importing pipeline. This will allow us to create and then use machine learning pipelines. And then we're also obviously going to need to import Weaviate so that we can use and reference Weaviate within our PySpark script. Now, once we have all of our libraries brought in, we will instantiate the Spark session. So Spark session builder, app name, just catfax sentiment analysis of the vectors. And then we can define our catfax task, or not task, a function. Sorry, I'm still stuck in Airflow parlance. So here, defining catfax, we have just fetching some catfax from the catfax API. This is just a public endpoint that you can use that will generate facts about cats. One of my colleagues tomorrow turned me onto it, and it's just a good API endpoint to use when you just need dummy data that has some amount of sentiment to it. And then so if it's successful, then give us the different facts for every fact in that response JSON, so it'll return us multiple facts. Give us the text for each of those facts and add them to an array, and then return that array as facts. So we have a task that's pulling our data out, so then what we're going to need to do is initiate a vectorization pipeline. So here we're going to use the pipeline feature to define one called feature extraction using this dStilbert based on case. This is just a sentiment, or not a sentiment, a vectorizer. You can look up the details of it, and then the tokenizer, same thing, dStilbert based on case. These are just publicly available models that you can use for performing your vectorization, so you don't have to do that aspect yourself, which is always nice. And then what we can do is register our user-defined function to, first we're going to set up our Weaviate connection. Apologies. So here we're going to create our Weaviate client, so this is referencing our Weaviate instance URL. So in this case, it's just going to be localhost 8080. That's where we're running Weaviate. And then what we'll do is define our function that's going to actually be performing our sentiment analysis. So here, finding sentiment analysis text, SID equals sentiment intensity analyzer. So this is one of those transformers that we're bringing in that will allow us to just perform an operation on our text to pull that sentiment analysis or those vectors out or perform sentiment analysis. So here, just again, using the sentiment intensity analyzer, and then what this will do is go piece by piece within our vectorized text and generate the sentiment on it, and then return that. Then we're going to register that user-defined function. So here we will sentiment UDF, sentiment analysis, and string type. And so what this means is it's going to take in that's some data, convert it to string type, and then perform the sentiment analysis function on it. Then we're going to get the catfax, so instantiate the result of catfax as facts. And then what we're going to do is vectorize and store our data within Weaviate. So what we'll do is for facts in facts, vector equals vectorizer fact. So this is going to run each fact through the vectorizer and then store that vector within this vector array. Then we're going to create a data object of fact and vector, so we know which fact is correlated to which vector. And then we're going to create each of those data objects using this client create function. So here within Weaviate, what we're doing is creating data objects that represent the vector and the fact that the vector represents. So eventually we're going to need to circle back and look at what fact, what the actual underlying text was. So that's why we're saving both of them. Then what we'll do is create a data frame. So Spark create data frame facts, string type to data frame fact. So it's going to store our facts within a data frame after they've been vectorized, and then we will apply our sentiment analysis. So here, results data frame is going to equal the facts data frame with an added column, sentiment, that is going to use the sentiment user-defined function that we defined up here to process that vectorized fact and then store it under that sentiment analysis or sentiment column here. Then just going to show the results and stop the Spark session. So here, show results, data frame show, trunk equals false, because it won't be a lot of lines of data. The cat facts, I think it only returns like 3 or 4 cat facts. And then stopping the Spark session, just Spark stop. So boom. That is a super basic way to just get set up and perform sentiment analysis. So now, since we have some extra time, I want to show you some ways that you can actually extend this script for more complex text processing. So the first thing I want to show you how to do is actually add some entity recognition to this pipeline. So what this will do is recognize, hey, what are the entities that are being talked about within these jokes, aka the cats, the dogs, the mice, any kind of person or feature that's in these jokes, the entity recognizer will actually pick up on and call out as an entity. And so all we need to do to add this, or we actually don't even need to add this because it's included within the transformers library. Since you imported transformers in pipeline, we'll already have this available. But essentially what we'll do here is we can define an additional user-defined function here after we perform the sentiment analysis called extract entities. And so what this task will do, or this function will do, is for each entity group, so this text, so just the text that we're bringing in from these facts, it will basically process that using this NER pipeline, which will actually, create the NER pipeline as well. So here we have the NER pipeline, so creating a separate pipeline. Then this, what it's doing, is a model that is designed to recognize and then show you what an entity is. So fine-tune for this particular task. And then this user-defined function, extract entities, will run the NER model on each cat fact and extract those entities and represent them as a list of tuples containing the entity type and the text of the entity. Then what you'll also need to do is just a little bit extra registration of the UDFs. So here, to see how we also instantiated the sentiment UDF, we can also instantiate this NER UDF similarly, but in this case we're actually bringing in the entity type and the text as 2 different structure fields. So passing this extract entities an array of different structures here that represent the entity type and the text, because within this you need to have an entity type, and an entity type will be things like, hey, is this a type of cat? Is this a location? Really anything that's like, think of it as like a proper noun. A proper noun would be an entity within the context of NER. So that's how you can add NER, entity recognition, to your pipeline. And then you'll also, need to apply. So instead of having just this apply, which is, so here, instead of results data frame, what we have is this sentiment. So still similar kind of setup here, but we're adding 2 columns, dot with column, and also another dot with column here for entities, and the NER UDF for fact. So you can see, just wanted to show you like how to extend this if you want to add additional steps in the pipeline. The base setup is the same, but really once you have those vectors, you have this kind of setup. You can layer in as much additional processing as you want onto these scripts. And yeah, should be all set. So just want to give you a framework for understanding how to convert data, store it, work with it all locally, apply processes to it, and kind of get you started with ML with Spark. So I hope you learned something in this video. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Data Guy out.